theyeshiva.net.
We're going to move on today to Parshas Vayeitzei, page 44. The second column, Daf Chav Beis Amud Dalet, Chav Beis column 4. That's page 44. On the second column, you see Ulelavan, Shtei, Banos. Lavan had two daughters. Everybody knows the pasuk in Parshas Vayeitzei. The whole story is introduced in the innocent verse. Ulelavan Shtei Banos. Lavan has two daughters. Shem Hagdoyle Leah, Shem Haktana Rachel. The oldest one is Leah. The younger one is Rachel. Vayehav Yaakov es Rachel. Yaakov loves Rachel, and he asks Lavan if he could serve him for 7 years. Berachel Bitcha Haktana. And Lavan's response is, better to give her to you than to give her to anybody else.
Touching. Very touching.
Very good. Yes, very good.
Is there any history to the manor? Any history to the manor?
The Maimer is from the year Tofkuf Ayin Aleph. That's what we know, which means 1810. Tofkuf Ayin Aleph. That's what I know. I mean, that's what I know about the Maimer. So he starts off, Hine. Now we have this Yisroel that pervades really many of the Maimarim, and it's really an axiom in Torah, in all segments of Torah, and that is that every character in Chumash and Tanakh is not just a physical, historical figure who lived at a certain point in a certain place, but each character represents a timeless characteristic that exists within the human psyche. Or to put it differently, all the characters in Chumash are personal characters. They're internal characters. There's the Lavan inside of me. There's the Hevel and Cain inside of me. There's Adam and Noach and Vashti and Achashverosh and Paroi and Yosef and the brothers and Yaakov, Esav, Leah, Rachel, and they're all inside of us. So these characters are really prototypes. They're people, of course, but they're also prototypes. They represent something, and their stories are therefore individualized stories as well. And that's why when he starts a Maimon, he'll start talking about Leah and Rachel in terms of spiritual dynamics or energies. It seems strange. I mean, Leah was a woman and Rachel was a woman and they were sisters, etc. That's of course true. But each one, like every person, represents a certain personality and a certain character and a certain midah, etc. So Hine Leah and Rachel, to understand Leah and Rachel, you have to understand that it's Oisis HaMachshav and Oisis HaDibur. Represents the letters of thought and the letters of speech, or to put it in different words, ha'alma de'eskasya v'alma de'esgalia, the hidden world and the revealed world. This says in Zohar already that Leah is alma de'eskasya, Leah is the hidden world, and Rachel is alma de'esgalia, the revealed world. And what this immediately tells us is that when you read about Leah and Rachel, one has to be sensitive to the fact that they were two extremely different people. Not just two sisters who look differently, but the different looks represent different realities, different types of souls. What's the difference between machshava and dibur? The same difference between alma de'eskasya, alma de'esgalia. Alma de'eskasya means a hidden world. Alma de'eskasya means an open world. When you speak, I can hear you. When you think, I can't hear you. The Gemara says famously in Psachim, Ein adam yodeya ma b'libo shel chaver. No man knows what another person is thinking. And it actually allows us to survive. Imagine everybody would know what everybody is thinking about them all the time. It would probably be a little complicated. No? Right? You agree? Okay. It would be an interesting world, right? It would be a lot complicated? Okay. Fine. So, I would say many marriages survive because people don't know what the other person is thinking, right? And then hopefully you relax after a few hours. Business relationships, etc. Shul relationships, right? You don't always tell the guy sitting near you what you think. So
ultimately be a lot easier.
it would be easier if
It
what?
would be a lot easier ultimately.
If everybody knew what everybody thought. The boundaries would be
It
clear.
would be difficult.
Yes,
After that.
it would be easy. That's true. You just may have to live alone, but yeah. I don't mean you, I mean some people.
Of course, you
What were you really thinking? We would learn to control our thoughts, is what we would do.
We would learn to control our thoughts or learn in desperation to repress our thoughts. We can control and repress. So machshava is an internal world. Machshava is my world. Who am I? And dibur is how I projected, how I'm projected to the outside. Now when he says here machshava and dibur, he right away says alma diskasya, alma disgalia to clarify what he means. Machshava and dibur is very clear. If you see by machshava, he says oisis ha-machshava and oisis ha-dibur. Because we don't realize we think in letters, just like we speak with letters. You can't think outside of words and letters. That's usually part of our machshava. Everyone think about it, right?
Pictures.
Pictures, right. But when you're thinking about things in a processed way, you think in a language. You probably think in English. But think about how you think. You'll always feel a language in your thoughts. That's why even in machshava, he says here, oisis machshava. Now there are higher levels of machshava, higher levels where you graduate oisis. But generally, if I'm thinking about something, or I'm thinking about an idea, and I'm trying to develop it, or analyze it, or thinking about a dilemma, whatever it is, I think in a language. So there's also letters in thought, just like there's letters in speech, generally speaking. But nonetheless, you can't compare the concrete quality and texture of letters in dibur to the quality of letters in machshava, which are so much more subtle and so much more refined, to the point that you sometimes have to prove to people that they're thinking in a language because they don't realize it. In words, it's obvious that you need a language, and if you don't understand my language, there's no way you can understand my message, because the words are always conveyed through letters. But then he adds alma diskasya, alma disgalia. Alma diskasya means that generally Leah comes from a hidden world, and Rachel comes from a more revealed world. V'zehu inyan ba'artzos hachayim. And this is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim, in Hallel actually, where David HaMelech says, Es halech lifnei Hashem ba'artzos hachayim. Now what's the concept of ba'artzos hachayim? Ba'artzos hachayim means I will walk before Hashem in the lands of life. Two aratzos. Not Eretz hachayim, but artzos. So he says beis aratzos. But David HaMelech is probably speaking about the land of life, the land of holiness, the land of Eretz Yisroel. Why does he say ba'artzos hachayim? The answer is because there are really beis aratzos. Shebizman shebeis hamikdash hayakayim hayu shnei habchinas meirim be'Eretz Yisroel. When the Beis HaMikdash existed, both dimensions, Leah and Rachel, thought and speech, alma diskasya and alma disgalia, both were revealed in Eretz Yisroel. But v'ha'ikir haya b'chinas Rachel. But the primary dimension of what was revealed, what was meir, is Rachel, shenikras hakeres habayis. Chazal call Rachel hakeres habayis, which means the foundation of the home, the ikir of the home. She is called Yaakov's hakeres habayis, like she was the main, the primary, from the word ikir, hakeres. She was the primary source or foundation of the home. Ki hamachshava mislabeshes b'toich hadibur v'hadibur haya mizgal. Because generally the way it worked was the thought is enclosed in words, and the word gets revealed. You don't know my thoughts, you know my words, but my words hopefully contain my thoughts, so you have access to my thoughts through my words. So in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, Leah and Rachel both of their energies shined in Eretz Yisrael, but Leah came through Rachel. Rachel represents words, Leah represents thoughts. The machshava comes out through the dibur. Ulefisha Rachel shel b'chinas hadibur, since Rachel represents speech, who alma disgalia, which is the revealed world, lekach haya oz be'Eretz Yisrael gilia lekusa yizbarach. That's why in the time of the Beis HaMikdash there was such a revelation of godliness. Shahayu chachamim gdoilim bali ruach hakodesh u'nevi. Eretz Yisrael was populated with people who were bali, great sages, and also men of divine inspiration and prophets. Rashi in Tanakh, in Yoin and Yecheskel explains that Nevuah really dwells only in Eretz Yisrael, based on a Gemara in Moed Katan, at the end of Moed Katan. Nevuah, and that's why Rashi says that Yoin and Yecheskel, who prophesied outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's only because they began to prophesize in Eretz Yisrael. Then Yecheskel continued when he went into Golos al Nahar Kvar, on the Kvar River in Babylonia. And Yoina prophesied after he got his nevuah, after the fish spit him out, outside of Eretz Yisrael. But they both began in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because in Eretz Yisrael you had Leah filtered through Rachel. Leah represents the inner world. Rachel represents the outer world. When Leah is filtered through Rachel, everything is revealed. Everything emerges. So therefore, when Leah is accessed through Rachel, your thoughts have a vehicle of expression, which are basically words. That's what happens, and that's why in Eretz Yisrael we had Artzoi Sachayim, Leah and Rachel working in unison. Leah and Rachel here are symbolic, obviously. In unison, godliness is revealed. You have Nevuah, you have Ruach HaKodesh, you have a tremendous, the antennas are up. People are sensing godliness in a very, very powerful way. Ubefrat, besides the Nevi'im, you have Beis HaMikdash, you have Hashras HaShchina B'Kodesh HaKadoshim, you have Urim V'Tumim, you have Avodas HaKarbanos, the Gemara says, Yored Eish Milmaila. All these elements represent the fact that in Eretz Yisrael there was like an antenna that was so sensitive to the godly energy, and it became a reality that was manifested in the land, both in terms of people, in terms of personalities, in terms of the Beis HaMikdash, in terms of the Shechina, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Urim V'Tumim, and the Avodas HaKarbanos. All of this was a place where the Shechina was much more manifested in a revealed way. And like in everything in the world, there's always Zela Umazah, right? So the Klipa, therefore, is also very spiritual, which is the reason that Avodah Zarah, we once spoke about Avodah Zarah, was so rampant during Bayis Rishna, was such a great temptation, because the spiritual language was a very common one. A spiritual high was very common. So therefore, Klipa had to contend with that reality. So Avodah Zarah offered people deep meditative skills, and it offered them journeys into mindful states of consciousness that allowed them to suck out very profound spiritual energies and experience a certain form of spiritual ecstasy without the discipline, without the structures, put it this way, that Kedusha demands, often with a lot of promiscuity. But Avodah Zarah was so compelling, it's very hard for us to understand even what was so compelling about it. Because in Bayis Sheni, and especially after Churban Bayis Sheni, this is primarily in Bayis Rishon, and with the fire used to come down to burn up the karbonas, and there was Urim V'Tumim. In the Bayis Sheni already, this was also very diminished, as we'll see. But therefore, in the Bayis Sheni already, the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin and Masechta Yuma that the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah was bottled. It was destroyed. It works both ways. In Kedusha also, that the spiritual conversation of Judaism was diluted, it was compromised. Often the structures took over. The powerful structures took over rather than the internal conversation with God. But there was a very deep conversation with God that was happening because Leah was filtered through Rachel. Now something happened. After the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, Golu Yisroel, the Jews go into exile, but something else happens. It's not only geographical. The Gol Seimam Hashchina, the divine presence also goes into exile. Shehi B'chinas Rachel, the Shechina is always associated with Rachel. Shehi B'chinas Golus. Rachel went into exile. That's why Rachel Mevaka al Baneha, she cries at the end of Yirmiyah. Ba'ayin Sorim, she goes into Golus in the 70 spiritual princesses. Ayin Sorim represents the fact that there are generally 70 nations. And the 70 nations each have a sar, which is like a spiritual energy. It's called like a spiritual prince or minister, so to speak, the energy that's in charge on that region or that country, that civilization or that nation. And Rachel, the Shechina, goes into Golus, into those realities. It becomes part of that civilization in exile. Therefore, Rachel does not shine at all in the same way that she was revealed during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when the Dibur, meaning the words, were revealed. To understand what Rachel is now, you have to compare it to what the pasuk says, which is a pasuk in Yeshaya, Perek Nun Gimel. Rachel means a sheep, a ewe, E-W-E. That is a Rachel in Hebrew. Rachel is a sheep, right? From the sheep family, a ewe, not a ewe as a ewe, a ewe as a ewe. Now you understood, right?
Thanks for clarifying.
Kiracha like a ewe, lifnei goizezeha, in the presence of her shearers. Those who shear its wool, ne'elama, she remains silent. Sheep don't protest. They allow you to cut off all their beautiful, majestic, splendid, bright wool quietly. They are docile, submissive. In Yiddish you say as a shepsela, right? Some people are bulls and some people are sheep. In English as well. A sheep. It represents she's silent. She doesn't revolt. That's Rachel and Golus. Sometimes people are in that state. Do whatever you want and I don't say a word. Why? You're in a state of exile. You're in a state of concealment, and that's what the Shechina allows to happen in Golus. Unlike in the Beis Hamikdash, when Rachel was in full splendor, she was fully revealed and she was expressing ultimately Leah's energy that was filtered through Rachel, so you had godliness revealed. Now, va'avoidihi b'derech birurim. In Golus, the avodah changes. It's b'derech birurim. Birurim doesn't mean, birurim is a whole different avodah. Birurim is back to the idea of boirer, sorting, selecting, designating, separating. Birurim generally in one word means struggle. What's struggle? Struggle is to find the angel that's trapped in the marble. I use that expression, just reminding. They asked Michelangelo, who was, of course, a uniquely talented sculptor, how he managed to sculpture out these magnificent, David and other ones. I mean, magnificent, how he did it. So he explained that he really didn't do anything. Like all great artists, they don't do anything, right? He said, I saw the angel trapped in the marble. And I chiseled away on the marble and I set the angel free. So that's what Birurim means. Birurim means the angel is trapped in the marble and all you have to do is chisel away, but that's very hard because you don't see the angel in the marble. That's when something is in Golus, you don't see it. So the avodah today is b'derech birurim, to look for the goodness, the inspiration, the godliness. Because Rachel is not begilui. When Rachel is begilui, and Rachel represents a very deep spiritual energy, so spirituality is begilui, then the avodah is not birurim. It's a very different avodah.
What was the avodah taka before, when Rachel was so, the Shekhinah was so obvious and apparent? What avodah should there have been? There was no struggle.
Oh, so that's why the great struggle then was avodah zarah.
Okay.
The great struggle was avodah zarah. In other words, the question would be, am I ready for that relationship? Am I ready for that intense relationship with God or not?
And channel that ecstasy.
Yeah. Where am I going to channel it? Where am I going to channel it? Now it's an avodah b'chlal if there's a relationship going on. If there is a relationship going on. That's a different avodah. Umikol makayim, but here's the catch. Mikol makayim nishar me'er b'Eretz Yisroel b'chinas Leah. Rachel can go into Golus. Leah never goes into Golus. That's the paradox. The subconscious, the true unconscious, can't be manipulated. It doesn't go into Golus. So Leah remains in Eretz Yisrael. V'hi madrega yosek avayim b'chinas Rachel. And that's the key about Leah. Leah is a completely higher state of consciousness than Rachel. What you think, you can't express often in words. And we know, there's a story in Priyetz Chaim, Reb Chaim Vital says that his Rebbe, the Arizal, once took a nap Shabbos afternoon. He woke up and from the nap, and he says that he just experienced Soidus HaTorah in the Parsha of Balak and Bilam. So Reb Chaim Vital asked if he could give it over. So he says, he slept for like an hour or two. He says, even if I speak for 80 years, I can't say what I saw. We see generally that what you process in thought to say it is much longer. You all know you could think about something, in 30 seconds you could cover the world. You could sell your business 100 times and buy it back and make hundreds of decisions. Now I say, what were you thinking about? Oh, where do you want me to begin? It was just 30, you were daydreaming for 30 seconds. Because it operates on a different level. Time becomes, time bends. to use that language. Everything changes. What you have a machshava to bring down in dibur is a whole different reality. That's even thoughts that you can articulate. Then there are thoughts that are even deeper that you can't even articulate. You don't have the words for them. Generally, words are containers. All letters are containers. The more it has to come down, the more it has to shrink, the more it has to be limited. You'll see a fascinating phenomenon. You talk to a person about sports, if they know about sports, they could speak 4 hours without stopping for a moment. 4 hours. You go over to the same person and you say, can you describe to me who you are in your deepest core? Most people won't be able to speak about it for more than 10 seconds. And even that will be very difficult for them. Sports, you could just spoke about 4 hours. I asked you who you are in your deepest place. That's you, not about sports. The weather you could speak about, Trump you could speak about, Hillary you could speak about even more, but or less. But yourself, the answer of course is, I'm talking even if you trust a person. If you don't trust a person, you don't trust a person. The answer is because words are containers. And because they're containers, so things that transcend those containers are very hard to limit in words. So things that are more superficial, the words can easily become containers for them, because what are they containing? They're not containing deep light. But the deeper you go into yourself, the more you will struggle to find words. People will say, Ich hab nicht de Wörter. What does that mean? I don't have the, why don't you have the words? Why? You don't stop speaking. You don't stop talking. Why don't you have the words? The answer is because words are containers, and containers are finite. They're kalim. They're finite. The cup has 7 ounces. It's too much to say, and sometimes it's too deep to say. I don't even know it myself. I haven't processed it. I feel it, I sense it, I experience it. And the deeper it is, the less words. And that is why humanity invented different languages besides words. For example, we have the language of poetry. What is poetry? Poetry, of course, uses the same letters we use in the alphabet. But poetry lends itself to contain emotions that regular sentences, paragraphs, etc. would not convey. And then we have a different language, called the language of music. The language of music is also a language. Every song tells a story, but it lends itself to encompass an energy that can't be conveyed through words. Balatanya used to say that a niggin without words is much deeper than a niggin with words. And then you have, of course, the sound of silence. Silence contains things that even a song and even and poetry and certainly regular prose or words can't contain. So the deeper it is, the more it has a challenge to be filtered through dibur. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, all Leah's energy comes through Rachel. Rachel is the filter. She's the strainer. And therefore, there's tremendous revelation, because Rachel is expressive. Rachel is articulate. Rachel is the revealed world. She brings it out. So you have, when you're dealing with godliness, it explodes, it emerges. In Galus, Rachel went into Galus. Ne'elama. So she's now quiet. What remains, however? Leah. Leah is much higher than Rachel. He says, Kamashal ha-machshava she ruchnias v'nailis min ha-dibur. Shehi eina begalus. Machshava transcends dibur. It's more subtle, it's more spiritual, it's more elevated. And when you talk about machshava, you have to understand there's 2 things in machshava. There's 3 things. There is machshava that prepares for speech. That's machshava that we think similar to how we speak. It's still much higher and faster, right? Sometimes a person thinks they have the vart, the machshava, now start saying it. It's very difficult, right? And sometimes people don't even realize how dramatic the transition is. You have to give a speech, you have to give a presentation, you have it in your mind, and then you start saying it and you see you don't have it, because it's a special journey from the world of machshava to the world of dibur, and sometimes a traumatic one in some situations, a difficult one. It's not an easy transition. In your thought, it was very rich, and it came out, you said, it didn't come out. You were excited about it by you. But speaking is a whole different art, because speaking actually is more listening than speaking. With speaking, you have to understand the audience and what they experience and who they are and what they're. It's a whole different thing. Machshava is very, not selfish, but it's internalized. That's machshava, one level of machshava. That's letters. Then there's machshava in pictures, visualization, which is even higher. But then there is, and in that itself, there's various levels of machshava, but then there is machshava that you're not even aware of. Those are what we would call unconscious thoughts. Unconscious thoughts are thoughts. They're deep experiences. not only don't they come out in a revealed way in dibur, they don't even come out in a revealed way in conscious thoughts. So when you talk about machshava, there's machshava on top of machshava on top of machshava, and it's always higher than dibur. Shehi eina begalus. And that does not go into exile. It does not get manipulated because it's not expressive. Because it's not expressive, it can't go into galus, it can't go into exile, it can't be hijacked. Because it remains concealed, so it remains immune, it remains protected. Ki Rachel nikra mem psucha, sheyesh mimena pesach umavoili, nikas achitzayim bizman agalus, mashenkin mebchilis mem stua, v'sham u'shayrish leia, ein bezayah. Reish Parshas Trum. There are two mems. There's a mem psucha and a mem stuma. Mem psucha is an open mem stuma is a mem soifis, it's a sealed mem. In Yeshaya, there's a pasuk, that in the middle of the pasuk you have a shlos mem. L'marba ha-mishra u'l'shalom ad ein kates. I think Yeshaya Perek Tes. There's a shlos mem. Mem psucha means it's sealed off. Nobody could be a parasite there. Mem stuma. Mem psucha, you have parasites. They come and take it. From Rachel, there can be parasites. Yinikas achitzayim means external forces that are parasitic. They feed off your energy. From Leah, she remains aloof. Because she remains aloof, so therefore, it doesn't lend itself for people, for chitzayim, for external forces to take them. But because Leah represents the unconscious world of concealment, that's why the revelation today in Eretz Yisrael you can't compare to the revelation of the time of the Beis HaMikdash, because then you had Rachel in Eretz Yisrael, and Rachel filtered it in a revealed way. Rachel spoke it. Once Rachel goes into Galus, what remains in Eretz Yisrael? Leah. Leah remains in Israel, but Leah is inaccessible. Leah is very hard to have access to Leah. Because for Leah, you have to go into very deep places of yourself. And that's what remains in Eretz Yisrael, so you don't have the same Gilui. However, something else happens. Mikol makar, hatzadikim hagdoilim asher ba'aretz. The great tzadikim in the land, yicholim lahasig achshav be'eretz Yisrael, hasagas el yoinus yoiser afilu mimashe yisigu tzadikim k'moisav bizman habayis. Tzadikim could get today in Eretz Yisrael higher, deeper hasagas, deeper levels of perception than what tzadikim on equal par, on equal level, would have received bizman habayis. Why? Because in order to have hasaga today, you have to get from Leah. And if you go into Leah, it's unfiltered. And if it's unfiltered, it's far more profound. Because you're grasping the energy from machshava elyoina, from the higher thought, beyond being enclosed in the world of speech. Take a person like the Arizal. How do you explain the phenomenon of the Arizal? The Arizal revolutionized the landscape of Jewish mysticism in a way that was unprecedented in all of Jewish history. The Arizal was a product of Gola. The Arizal lived in the 16th century, spent 2 years in Tzvas, passed away Shin Lamed Beis, 1572, at the young age of 36. 2 years taught, but what the Arizal did in the world of Chachmas HaNistar was unprecedented till then. Anyone who even knows anything about Kislev Arizal, it was like everything he touched was transformative. He said, where did the Arizal get this from? No Beis HaMikdash, no Nevi'im, not that level of Nevuah, not Ruach HaKodesh, that level, no Urim V'tumim. The whole Gilui Alakus that existed was gone. It was this, you're dealing with 16th century. It was a very difficult time. Adam and Empire in Eretz Yisrael, Golus Shabbagalus. Where does this happen from? The answer is, and even Rashbi, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who lived in Galus, he lived after the Churban, he was in a cave, also in Eretz Yisrael. So you have here, he's bringing an example of the Arizal, because the Arizal was like, as they say, Mishamaya Kanachas, so to speak, came down from heaven. Where's this phenomenon? Dafka in Galus? The answer is precisely that. On one level, when you come into Eretz Yisrael, you may feel very little. You may feel nothing, or you may feel very little. You don't have that explosion, articulation, and revealed manifestation of divine energy. It's still not chutzlar. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael. Even many of us simple Jews feel something in Eretz Yisrael. But what is that really? And is that cultural? Is it, how authentic is it? How deep it is? But certainly it's not like Bisman Habayis. Because The explosive energy is not there because Rachel went into Galus. Together with the Rachel represents the Shechina. The Shechina is in Galus, and Galus is a different reality. There's a void of Birurim. Birurim is not about inspiration. Birurim is about working through the issues and finding the angel trapped in the marble. And then finding your inspiration. But what remains in Eretz Yisrael is Leah. And Leah is much deeper than Rachel. But because she's deeper than Rachel, she's inaccessible. It's very hard to put your finger on Leah because it slips away. You want to talk about it, and then there's no it to talk about. It doesn't lend itself easily to access. It's like the subconscious of a person or the superconscious of a person. What does your superconscious look like? Or what does your subconscious look like? I use super because sub means under, super means above. So I'm using superconscious rather than subconscious. Keser is above Chach, but not lower. But the concept here is that it's beyond the consciousness. So we all have brains who filter out our subconscious, and they allow us to experience a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction and less of our subconscious. Our brain evaluating what you can deal with today and what you can't deal with today. And if you mature a little bit, the brain will give you a little more of what's going on. But to have an absolute revelation of the subconscious, you know what people would look like? You know what you would look like to yourself? We survive because of ignorance. Ignorance is our savior. And ignorance, I mean ignorance of self. We survive that way. We can function as half-baked normal people. I'm speaking about myself. I know you're all very normal. But we can function as semi-normal people because we don't know. We don't know. What happens when you get access to it? There will be no filter. You know what we call people that have no filter? We have a name for them, huh? Psychotic. Now sometimes they speak the truth. Sometimes they mamash speak the truth. But nonetheless, the filter protects us because we're limited. And when you have finite vessels, the energy has to be limited. But what happens if you can access in Kedusha, Leah? Then it's a whole different level of Asaga. The Arizal, when you in Eretz Yisrael, if you don't tap in, you don't tap in. But if you tap in, you're tapping into Leah, not to Rachel. And if you're tapping into Leah, it's a whole different level of energy. It's like a nuclear energy. So therefore the Arizal, etc., these types of personalities, they tapped into the Bechina of Leah, and therefore their Hasaga was even greater than the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Which doesn't, of course, take away from the Beis HaMikdash and all of its revelations, but precisely the Chisara becomes the Maila.
Wouldn't you say that somebody like the Arizal was the Rachel, where they brought it out into words for everybody else? They acted as that filter.
Perhaps.
Conduit.
Yeah, but it's still esoteric. I mean, it's not like I can understand his words to really understand what he means.
He was extremely esoteric, right? Mm-hmm. It's mostly code language when he writes. Mm-hmm. Almost all of it is absolutely mysterious.
If Leah didn't change, so how come, I mean, I'm assuming if nothing changed in Leah, so how come during the Samikdash times won't they be able to, the big tzadikim go straight to Leah? If that makes any sense.
No, that's a great question. The answer is because you didn't have to go to Leah. Leah...
Right, but if you know that you could go straight and get way bigger, like you said, it was bigger in the time of Golos.
You're saying, why then didn't they go straight to Leah? Because Leah was there. The answer is, al derech what we learned about Makif. When Leah is working through Rachel, that's how you channel Leah. When there's... the chisaron becomes the maila, like we spoke about, on a different level, of course. This is now we're not dealing here with klippa, we're dealing here with kedusha. But that concept is when Leah is not available, because Rachel is not here, then there is the impetus, the challenge to be able to reach Leah. Yes, theoretically the inyan is there even then, but since there's a gilui through Rachel, so that's so to speak, it's workable. It's reality. It's happening that way.
Confusing yesterday and today, but
Say.
but because once I have a structure, in this case the structure is the language, everything I conceive of immediately becomes the language. So I would try to go to Leah and see it as Leah, but it immediately becomes Rachel. It becomes, I guess the makif automatically becomes...
In other words, very well. The paradigm in the time of the Beis HaMikdash is one where Rachel is Dakaras Habayis. So therefore, any experience ultimately somehow fits into that paradigm. It becomes Rachel. It becomes Dibur. Because that is how we're functioning. That is the energy That's the mechanism that's used. That's the energy we're tapping into. Is there a Metzias of Leah beyond Rachel? Of course there is. But when I'm accessing that Metzias, I'm accessing it according to what's available here, how we're functioning, how we're operating. The Ruchnius that is vibrating in Eretz Yisroel during this Man HaBayis, which is a tremendous his galus, because it's working with Rachel. In the time of galus, that mechanism is gone. Nothing is even articulated, which is why galus is galus and so powerful. And that's the whole idea of galus. It's not just geographical. Even in Eretz Yisroel, there's galus. Even in Eretz Yisroel, they say, Mipnei chata'enu galinu me'artzeinu. Even though you're in Eretz Yisroel, what's the galinu me'artzeinu? Because galus is geographical, but galus is also existential. It's a sense of displacement. So when there's that spiritual displacement, so then, if I access Leah, I need a whole different language. It's a completely different language. So we have from here, he right away, he started with Leah and Rachel, he right away went on a trip to history with Eretz Yisrael and Golus, but of course you have to bring it back to Leah and Rachel, to the literal Leah and Rachel. We have a very, I would say, penetrating, probably unprecedented insight into these two people, Leah and Rachel. Ve'ene Leah rakos, v'Rachel hoise yefas Torah v'yefas mara. Leah and Rachel was not just an older sister, a younger sister. Rachel was beautiful, and Leah didn't have that beauty of Rachel. That's on a physical level. But there's something much deeper about Leah and Rachel. That Leah is really a soul who's obviously in touch with Alma Diskasya. She's in touch with the hidden world. She operates on that level. Rachel, on the contrary, is the great filterer. She's in touch with Alma Diskasya. It doesn't mean she has no Alma Diskasya. Of course she does. But her Alma Diskasya has a home. It has a home in Alma Diskasya. Leah is Alma Diskasya beyond Alma Diskasya. In other words, her Alma Diskasya does not have a home in Alma Diskasya unless she's together with Rachel. That's the point. When she's not with Rachel, she is in the world of Alma Diskasya. So now we understand when Rashi says that Leah used to cry a lot, right? Leah used to cry a lot.
What else is she supposed to do?
What
else is she supposed to do? No, I'm saying she can't articulate. She can't articulate.
What are tears? It doesn't mean she cried, she was a depressed soul. She was not. Leah was a giant. Leah was a great soul. But tears come from things that you can't articulate. Why do people start crying? It's overwhelming. It's intense. It says in Zoya when Rabbi Akiva used to say Shir Hashirim Zolgu Ein of Monsey, he would start crying. Shir Hashirim is not a tragic. It's not a tragic story. It's not Eoiv. It's not Eicha. It's not even Koheles. Shir Hashirim is full of love and promise and romance and affection.
Why do we cry at our children's weddings? It's the same.
Right.
It's the same thing.
It's such an overwhelming experience. Like you're in touch with an energy that you don't have words for it. You don't have words. You start crying. Sometimes you start dancing. Sometimes you start laughing. But crying represents something that's very deep. Leah was extremely, extremely deep. There's another mimer of the Balatanya. Actually, Rabbi Isaac, you made the copies? Rabbi Isaac made copies of it, where he elaborates on this point. Here he continues on this. We'll see. We'll continue Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow. But there's another mimer where he says, it's a mimer the next year of Vayeitzei. This was Tov Kufay of the next year. It never made it into Torah, but there's a whole other set called Maimori Admor Hazakim, which is like 25 Svarim of the Alter Rebbe besides Torah and Likud Torah. It's a red set Maimori Admor Hazakim. They probably have it upstairs. So it's year by year. So Tov Kufay and Beis, he has a Maimer on Vayeitzei. And there he says something extraordinary. He says Leah in Hebrew, do you know what the word Leah in Hebrew means? Anybody?
Like Nil-eh?
Right? The first time you have the word Leah is in Parshas Vayera. Vayil'u limtzoi hapesach. Then you have in Parshas Shmois, Nil'u mitzrayim lishtas mayim in haya'or. Then you have the Navi cries, Niloi nilesi. You know what it means in all cases, in all situations? Exhaustion. Defeat. Exhaustion. Nilu, they're blinded. I can't find the door. I'm exhausted. Nilu Mitzrayim, the Mitzrayim are too exhausted to drink. They keep on drinking and it's always blood. Nilu Nilesi, the Navi says, God says, I'm tired of coming to you. You're always rejecting me. In modern Hebrew, they have Le'ut. Lamed Yud Aleph Vav Saf, which means dread, exhaustion, ayefus. Who names a daughter exhaustion? Leah means exhaustion, right? And what would the therapist say about it? What's your name? Leah. Wow, that's a good boost for self-confidence. You were born, your mother looked at you and said, exhaustion. Who names a child that way? That's what Leah means. Leah means exhaustion. Rachel means a you. Okay. Rachel is Gematria 238. The same Gematria of Vayeitzei. There was light. That's Rachel. And generally a sheep is a very bright animal. The Gemara says in Shabbos, Ayin Zayin, Izim, my time Izim, Mazgim Bereisha, Bereish Chashoicha, Vada Nahira. Most goats are dark color, most sheep are white, bright. Sheep are also easily accessible animals. Children who have issues with sensory integration, right? Often therapists will say they should handle animals because it's therapeutically healthy, but sheep are usually the easiest because there's least resistance. Even the way sheep convey their emotions, the meh is ma'ire rachamim. Kvasim ma'ire rachamim, we learned once in a Maimer and Emer about Sfiras ha'Omer. Keves, Kislev, if you remember.
Yaakov Hifrid.
Yaakov Hifrid Aksavim, Aksavim Hifrid Yaakov. Oh. So the Kevesh, Rachel is bright, it's white. It's the Gematria Vayeitzei, it's relaxed. It's serene, it's a docile animal, it's an easygoing animal. People who have farms know goats are difficult, they're sly, they're stubborn, they're smart, they're chutzpah, they're abstinent, and sheep are very easygoing animals. Mamish. Leah means exhaustion. Why are you naming this Leah? So the Alter Rebbe explains, because Leah wasn't exhausted because she didn't have enough sleep. Leah was exhausted because whoever lives in Alma de Iskasia is exhausted because it never stops. And he says there, look at thoughts. You never stop thinking. You could hopefully stop talking. Hopefully I'll soon stop. But thinking, who stops thinking? Stop thinking. And if you try to stop thinking, then you're thinking about the fact that you try to stop thinking. And if you even try to stop thinking about the fact that you're trying to stop thinking, you'll be thinking about whatever you're thinking. Even if you can clear up your mind, right? Some experience of machshava continues. The world of Alma Diskasi is dynamic, it's never ending, and it's infinitely profound and complex. That's the exhaustion. It's an exhaustion from being alert to very deep levels of energy. Rachel is much lighter. Light as in light, and therefore light as in L-I-G-H-T, and light as in light. Light, literally light, lighter.
It's spelled the same.
Huh?
They're both spelled
Okay.
the same.
Bud Light, yes.
Lighter than-
So it really represents two realities. And I think we can apply this also in our lives. There are two types of souls. And I think there's some people sitting in this room that will identify this quite easily, or some people listening. And that is, there are people for whom they're perceptive, they're very deeply perceptive. Whenever you're deeply perceptive, things are more complicated. Right? There's people who go into a simcha and they pick up everybody's energy. And they come home exhausted. For 2 weeks they have to recover. And other people come home and around 5 minutes later they forgot they were there. Right? Sometimes you have it between a husband and a wife. Yeah? The wife is like, I can't believe what happened, what he said. And the husband's like, oh, he was there? You know what I mean? Oh, he was just at the Shabbos table for 4 hours. You don't even know he was there. Oh, you already forgot he came. He was there. What do you mean? Like, turned over my soul and you don't know? So who's right and who's wrong? They're both. People operate on different frequencies. Some people, they feel things in a very deep way within themselves and within other people. And they don't know what's their energy with other people's energy. They get exhausted. They're exhausted from themselves. They're pushed exhausted from themselves. Not because they're superficial, because they're deep. Yosef da'as, Yosef machav. The more perception, the more pain. The more you're sensitive to reality. You're sensitive to reality. There was a poet. His name was Tzvi Yair, a Jewish poet. He lived in New York. His real name was Tzvi Meyer Steinmetz. I happen to know him. His pen name for poetry was Tzvi Yair. So he has a poem I once read. It's called Hamanhig, the leader. And he describes there what a real leader is. He says the real leader is standing in front of a cliff. And he knows that with one move, he can fall down that cliff. but his shoulders are so broad and his stature is so tall that he eclipses the vision of the cliff from all of his students and disciples and followers. So as they're following him, they're following with security, with serenity. And only he knows that moment, that little chut hasayir, that little thread moving in the wrong direction, and everybody falls into the abyss. But everyone is clueless. Everybody is unaware of it. He says those are the real manhigim, and no one even guess what they go through because they want to project to the people the confidence that they can do it. They don't want to fill them with the uncertainty and doubt because most people would melt. They don't melt. Most people would melt. So sometimes, in a very powerful way, people who are in touch with certain levels of energy, it remains completely eclipsed to other people. They just don't know about it.
Nothing Leah could do to ease it up.
It's not about easing it up. It's about embracing your mission in life. It's not about easing it up. Huh?
Not staying exhausted.
Oh, but it's so much of
Well,
mental illness. You see people saying,
yes.
I just can't stop the
Yes,
thoughts. I can't
yes,
stop,
yes.
and they're going out of their mind.
So that's where mental illness often comes from very deep, profound.
Scream. I can't stop the thoughts.
I can't stop the thoughts. I can't stop.
So being perceptive.
And it's not because they're less perceptive. It's because they're more perceptive. They don't have filters.
So being,
That's why Leah and Rachel ultimately have to join forces.
being perceptive will get you to Leah, but you have to have a filter on the perception.
You have to be able to understand. You have to be able to understand how to live in this world with Leah. It's not simple.
Right,
So
right.
Leah was really
It's
a
on the
blocker.
sky.
Rachel was really a blocker to Leah, not
A what?
a
Blocker.
Didn't let you. Rachel was there. You
Well,
the filter, not like we thought before, in a good way. You couldn't get to Leah.
No, like everything. It's not good or bad. It's just different realities.
But she's saved there.
Yeah, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, all Leah comes through Rachel, and in terms of kedusha, what that means is, I'm just giving this an example in psychology, but in terms of kedusha, what it means is that the kedusha can be articulated and relatable to all on some level. When in the time of the Galus, it's not relatable because it's you need very, very subtle perception. And if you look at Eretz Yisroel, you may see nothing. There's nothing going on here. Of course there's nothing going on. It's not your frequency. There's nothing going on. Somebody else walks into Eretz Yisroel and they're like, oh my God, like, you know, they...
what's the reason why Leah was crying? You said because she wasn't with Rachel? Leah was crying.
I once saw a letter a Yid wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the early 60s that he went to Eretz Yisrael. People wouldn't go to Israel a lot then. It was not so partial. And he took pictures, and the film got exposed. You remember the old pictures? The film got, and all the pictures got ruined. And he was devastated. He planned his trip, and he took the pictures, and all the pictures got ruined. Why he wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and what was the Rebbe supposed to do? Heal his film? I don't know what this man wanted from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but that's what he wrote to him. So he writes back to him a letter, yeah, I'm sorry, this, and then he says, but maybe there's something very positive what happened. Because if the pictures would have worked out, you would have thought that you were in Eretz Yisrael from the pictures. You would have thought that you got Eretz Yisrael. Hey, picture, I was here, I was here, I was here, I was there. And now you actually have to work it out if you were talking Eretz Yisrael. You have to work it out internally. You have no pictures. Now you have to actually, were you in Eretz Yisrael, Taka? You can't project it on the pictures, you understand? So he wrote back to him. He said, it's nicht das a gefährliche Sache.
Right. So what was the reason why Leah...
Somebody once wrote a poem that he went on vacation, he went boating, and he took a video of everything because he wanted to hold on to it. You know, he went rowing, he took a video. He went canoeing, he took a video. He went hiking. He didn't want to do anything without a video because he wanted the vacation to last. Yeah. So he did this for 2 weeks, wherever he went with a video camera, and he says at the end he realized that his video camera was on vacation. He was not there. He was no experience. So you could go up there to Yisrael. It's a land, you know. There's Strauss's ice cream. What's the good ice cream over there? Strauss, yeah? Strauss's ice cream, a good lafa, and Ben Yehuda. Sure, it's also Eretz Yisrael. Even the Kaisel, I get some Kaisel. Slavd af Geleya.
What was the reason why...
There's a famous Talmud Yerushalmi, that Divrei Torah aniyah b'makam echad v'ashirah b'makam acher. Words of Torah are poor in one place and wealthy in another place, which means that whenever you learn any sugya in halacha and gemara and mishnayos or shulchan aruch, whatever it is, in any part of Torah, you don't have usually in one place all the information that you need to have. In one place it may be brief, concise, so to speak, poor in the sense that it's not fully developed or articulated that you can understand. And you look to another place and there you have more wealth. And you have to bring the two together. That's how it is everywhere. That's how it works. One sugya borrows from the other and the other one borrows from the first. That's how it works. Same is true, of course, in all aspects of Torah. Yesterday we started to learn the Maimer in Torah, Ulelavan Shtei Banos, which was said by the Balatanya in Tovkuf Ayin Aleph, as I mentioned, which is 1810. And the main idea he brought out in the first section of the Maimer, now the Maimer goes off to a second section, was that Rachel and Leah represent, spiritually, mystically, two dynamics, the world of thought and the world of speech, the hidden world and the revealed world, or in the original language, Alma Deskasya and Alma Desgalia. And he applied it to the two stages of Jewish history. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when the Shekhinah was so manifestedly revealed in the Holy Land, the idea was that Leah was being filtered through Rachel. In other words, the energy of Leah, of the hidden world, was coming out through Rachel, who represents the energy that can be articulated and defined and revealed, because she represents Dibur. So therefore, Dibur, the skill of Dibur represents the ability to articulate things and tuning into those things that can be articulated through speech in an organized fashion. And therefore there was a tremendous explosion and revelation of godliness in Eretz Yisroel in terms of the Beis HaMikdash, Nevi'im, Bali Ruach HaKodesh, Hashras HaShechina, Urim V'Tumim, the Karbonis, the fire came down from heaven, etc. After the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Rachel goes into exile. Kerachel Lefnei Goyzezeha Ne'alama, that's the concept of Golus HaShechina. And the Avodah becomes one that is more focused on Birurim. Birurim is sorting, selecting, dissecting, struggling, removing shells and husks and excavating, right? Excavating and discovering the angel in the marble. But nonetheless, in Eretz Yisrael, you still have Leah. Leah does not go into Golus. And Leah is much deeper than Rachel, just like Machshava is far deeper than Dibur. It can't be articulated in Dibur. So when Leah is being filtered, so to speak, through Rachel, Leah is being revealed in a cohesive, organized fashion in Eretz Yisrael. That's the time of the Beis HaMikdash. When Leah is not being filtered through Rachel, it remains iskasyadik. It remains concealed. And thus, the Gilui Elokus in Eretz Yisrael lacks. You don't have the Gilui, because you don't have the Rachel. But those people who can tune in to the energy that is available in Eretz Yisrael can tune in to Hasagas Elyonis Yoiser, to greater and deeper Hasagas. Even then, similar tzadikim on the same level would experience the Bezman Beis HaMikdash, because they're challenged to access the energy of Leah, which transcends deeply the energy of Rachel, because it's a hasaga in machshava rather than a hasaga in dibur. It's almost like not watching you speak, but watching you think. Watching you think, experiencing your thought. Or on another level, not experiencing your conscious thoughts, but experiencing your unconscious thoughts. And he gives the example of the Arizal, or similar with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who were all in the time of Golus, not at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and nonetheless their hasagas were unique. The next year, Tovkuf Ayin Beis, the Alter Rebbe said another Maimer, also on this Parsha. Tovkuf Ayin Beis would be 1811, which is actually 1 year before his passing, which was Tovkuf Ayin Gimel, 1812, Tevis, Chavdala Tevis. It's a very short one, and we made a copy of it. I mentioned one idea from there, so we're going to go back to this Maimer. But to understand what he says here about Leah and Rachel, here there's a few hesbedim that he said 1 year later that give tremendous clarification and also application to this discussion about Leah and Rachel and what they represent. This Maimer, you could see it's we made a copy here. It's from a set Maimori Admur Hazakin of the year Tovkuf Ayin Beis, that series of that year. And it's actually a uniquely short Maimer. They're usually not so short, as you see. They're usually longer, but this is one paragraph. And if you look in footnote 1 on the word, it starts Inyan. He says, Nitfas kan miguf ksav yad kodesh at Tzemach Tzedek b'sefer Tovkuf Ayin Beis. But Tzemach Tzedek, who was the grandson of the Balatanya, his daughter's son, was one of the writers of his grandfather's discourses. And he wrote this down, this piece that he heard from his grandfather, and they still have the original manuscript, and they printed it from his original manuscript from the Tzemach Tzedek, who wrote these words that he heard from his grandfather. And it starts, well, let's take a look inside. Inyan ki snua Leah. Let's understand the concept that Leah was hated. Vayehav es Rachel. And Yaakov loved Rachel. Which is, of course, a pella shabapella. The Torah says, Ulelavan Shtei Banos, Shem HaGdoila Leah, Shem HaKtana Rachel, Vayehav Yaakov es Rachel. Torah, it says the difference. The eyes of Leah were weak, were poor, were soft. Rakos. Rakos means soft, or weak, or dim. Rashi says she wept a lot. And Yaakov, and Rachel is Yefas Torah, Yefas Mara. She's gorgeous. Her beauty is dazzling. It's splendid. Rashi says Toyar and Mara represent different things. Toyar is the physique, the symmetry of one's physique, and Mara is the ziv klastar ponim, the countenance, the face of a person. There's two aspects to the beauty of a body. And she's both Yefas Torah, Yefas Mara, Vayav, Yaakov es Rachel. He loves Rachel. And the love doesn't stop. The love doesn't cease. It's not like after 7 years, it calms down. On the contrary, when Yaakov is deceived by his father-in-law, and who gives him Leah instead of Rachel. So it says that Yaakov consummates the marriage with Leah. In the morning, he sees Vayihi baboiker, Vihine hi Leah, and he comes to Lavan and he says, Lamari misani, why did you deceive me? Haloi berachel avadati, I worked for Rachel, and Lavan of course says, I am the moral person, you're the crook. In our place, we don't put the oldest before the younger. You don't marry off an younger sister before an older sister. You finish your Sheva Brachas, Mali Shvu Azois. You'll marry Rachel, and you'll work for another 7 years. You'll work for 14 years to get your 2 wives. And Yaakov agrees. He goes through what he goes through. And he'll marry Rachel, he'll work another 7 years. And the Torah sums up the story, Vayehav games Rachel mi Leah. He loves Rachel too, but he loves her more than Leah. And the next scene is Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. Hashem saw that Leah was literally hated. So the Rebbe wants to understand what's this inyan of snua Leah and Rachel is loved. How do you understand this? Besides, you have a question. So Yaakov was mamish married to a woman that he despised, that he loathed, and you see all of her children. She struggles with this. The first boy she names Reuven. Ra Hashem ba'ani, God saw my pain. Ki ata yevani, she now will love me. Shimon Shama Hashem ki snua anoichi, God heard that I am hated. Levi, now finally my husband will become a partner. Apam yilava. So this is an experience in Leah. What's the Havana of this? What's the understanding of this? Hatam. The reason is this. Mishum shebchinas Leah hi gavoya ba'oid b'madrega. Contrary to what one may think intuitively when they read the story, or maybe exactly what one would think intuitively, Leah is extremely lofty person, a very sublime person. She's in a very, very deeply spiritually sensitive person. Hainu b'chinas eim habonim. When it says in Tehillim, Eim Habanim Smeicha, she is the mother of the children. Shehamido Shisha Shvatim. Remember, she is the one who ultimately brought into the world 6 of the Shvatim of Klal Yisrael. Rachel brought 2, Yosef and Binyamin. Bilhah brought 2. Zilpah, the other maid, brought another 2. So between all of them, you had 6. And Leah herself is the ultimate Eim Habanim who brings Shisha Shvatim. And the number 6 is important. The number 6 Shvatim come from her. V'lachein lo hikira Yaakov. And that's why Yaakov could not really recognize her. What does this mean he couldn't recognize her? Shehu b'chinas midas elyonis shehein lamata mehaseichel. Yaakov represents the higher godly midas, or as it often says in the Maimarim, B'chinas Zaz Eirampin, which is basically the combination of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, Yisoid. Those are known as the Midos, Elyonis, Hashem's Midos. That's what Yaakov represents, and they are always Lamata Mehaseichel. They are below awareness, because emotions are born from Seichel, from awareness. Ki ha-Midos nimshachis Mehaseichel. Midos come from Seichel, the Pasuk says in Mishlei, Yud Beis, Lefi Sichloi, Yuhulol Ish. according to one's mind, one's brain, one's seichel, a person will be praised. But here he teaches it different. Lefi sichla yehulel ish means, you could also read it yahalel ish. A person praises according to his seichel. In other words, our emotions are always commensurate with our awareness. You cannot emote about anything without an awareness, without a label. Emotions are usually born from awareness. I love this person. I despise this person. I'm scared of this person. I'm crazy about this person. I'm jealous of this person. Or this thing or this item. Every emotion has to be preceded by thoughts that label it, define it, dissect it, and then you can emote. And that's why, even though sometimes emotions feel so intense, but the fact is, the way you think about things is ultimately the way you feel about things. We respond emotionally based on awareness. Sometimes we don't realize you could think about it in a different way because we take our thoughts for granted and we believe that they are absolutes. But the truth is, lefi sichlo yehulalish. Midos are always based on seichel. V'im kein ha-seichel atzmo yu lamayla be'erech mehem. So the seichel itself is always higher than the midas. It's superior, it's deeper than the midas. V'shamu b'chinas Leah. And that's where Leah is. Like we learned in the Maimer in Torah, Leah is machshava, Leah is alma d'eskasya, Yaakov is midas, so that means Leah comes from a place that's deeper than Yaakov, spiritually, psychologically, deeper than Yaakov.
Where do we see that Yaakov is midas? I mean, I see that Leah's, you said yesterday, a very long thing, Leah's machshava eskasya. Where do you see that Yaakov is bedafka midas?
So generally we say that Avram was the b'china of chesed, and Yitzchak was the b'china of gevura. The Zohar says this. And Yaakov was the b'china of Tiferes and Rachamim. Tiferes is considered like the vortex, the center of the midas. So that's why we associate him with the midas. Generally, even though it's midas ha-Tiferes is considered like the central midah. Ela she b'china acheroinish b'seichel. When you speak about Leah, seichel itself has so many layers. Leah represents the final rung of seichel, dahainu b'chinas oisis hamachshava, which are the letters of thought, shehein levushe ha-seichel, which are really the garments of seichel, because all ideas are cloaked in thoughts. Ideas are cloaked in thoughts. Pictures, truths, what we call seichel, ideas, the way we process ideas is by thinking about the ideas. Can you tap into an idea without thinking about the idea? That's a profound experience. We process ideas through processing ideas. Processing ideas means I'm thinking about the idea. That's the levush. So even though machshava, we don't distinguish between thinking about an idea and an idea, but the truth is, ideas and thoughts of the idea are two separate things. Machshava is considered the b'china acharoina of seichel because it's the levush for the seichel. What do I mean a levush? A levush means it's my handle, it's my access to the idea. How do I have an idea? I have to think about it, and then I could speak about it. But first there's machshava, which is a levush. Valkei nikras Leah. That's why she's called Leah. Shemilosh nayefus. Leah comes from the idea which means exhaustion, tired. Kamoi vayilu limtzei hapesach. In Parshas Vayeitzei, it says that the malachim struck the people of Shtei b'sanveirim. They were blinded. And therefore, Vayilu, they were exhausted from looking for the door to be able to break into Lot's house. They're searching and searching and searching to the point that they just fell from exhaustion and dread. It's too much. Vayilu limtzei hapasach. So Leah denotes ayefus, exhaustion. Shehinila tamid. Because Leah represents something that is forever exhausted, tired. Why? Machmas shemekabeles ha'ashpa b'tmidas b'li hefsek. Because she's always receiving a flow of energy and it never stops. Because thoughts are always moving. Even when you're sleeping, you would think you could shut off your thoughts. You don't shut off your thoughts. You just dream. But you're always thinking. You're always experiencing a flow of something coming into you. And therefore, Leah is always dynamic. There's always a vibrancy, there's always a flow, because in the level of machshava, the energy never stops. So she's always getting ashpa, she's always experiencing something, stimuli, and therefore it's extremely exhausting. But even though we're saying it's machshava, it's completely higher than the midas, because midas are in a different realm than Seichel. They're lower than Seichel. So this is a completely different realm than Midos. Leah is above. V'lachein lo hikira Yaakov. And that's why Yaakov couldn't recognize who she really is. Because Leah was so deep and so beyond him, he could not recognize her true qualities. Mashenkin Rachel, hu b'chinas olam hadibur. Rachel represents the world of speech, shalamata b'chinas hamidus, shu b'chinas Yaakov, which actually follows the midos. It follows the emotions. It receives from Yaakov. Therefore, look at this line. V'lachein hoysa Leah snua. That's why Leah was hated. You know why? Ki davar hanelam umufla me'asaga einoi ahu ve'ein baytainu klal. We hate what we don't understand. Things that are concealed and beyond our comprehension, we cannot wrap our brains around it. We have no pleasure in them. They threaten us. They drive us crazy. They make us mad. They frustrate us. And therefore, we're forced to hate them. We're forced to hate them because they're too deep. They're too profound. We don't acknowledge their profundity because there would be no justification for hate. But that's the reality, the sensation that it creates in a person. Mashenkin midover hamusad, from something that you get, that you grasp, that you wrap your brain around, that you make sense of. Hu misaneg amachaya. This builds your identity, this confirms your identity, this enhances your identity. You got it in your bosom, you got it in your brain has it. You walk out with a smile, you feel good. And that's why Rachel is beloved. The Zehu. And therefore, so now let's understand what is he saying, a little bit in our words. I mean, this probably can be applied in literally hundreds of different ways, or maybe much more, infinite different ways. But I'll just say it in one application of it. When he speaks here about midos, seichel, machshava, it's also in a very abstract way. There's midos, emotions. There's dibur, words. There's machshava, which are thoughts. There's seichel, which are the ideas that produce the thoughts. This is a rung of the human personality, how our psyche functions. We speak, but you don't speak in a vacuum. Speech is preceded by the energy that what fuels your words. What fuels your words are emotions. What fuels your emotions are ideas. The transition of ideas to you comes through thoughts. Those thoughts are articulated in words and in letters. So that's the rung that you have. So you have Seichel, Leah, Machshava, you have Midos, Yaakov, you have Rachel, which is Divur. If you understand the context of what he's saying, though, he's actually, and here the words of the Torah are very helpful, Alma de Skasya and Alma de Galia. Alma de Skasya means something that's concealed. What does it mean it's concealed? Not that it's not deep. It's much deeper, and that's why it's concealed. In other words, I have no way of making sense of it. So what is the difference between Leah and Rachel? Here, Leah and Rachel represents two elements of your own self, your own psyche. Leah, Rachel, is the part of yourself that you could make sense of. It's the part of yourself that you can wrap your brain around. It's the part of yourself that somehow you can structure, you can talk about it. It's articulated. It's Alma de Galia. It can be revealed. It has a place where it's settling. It's settled. You can classify it. You can put it in a box. This is who I am. Is there a part of yourself that you actually make sense of? We try to do this all day. Make sense of ourselves. Make sense of our spouses. Make sense of our lives. Make sense of our children. Make sense of God. Make sense of existence. We all try to do it in one way or another. If you're having a good day and you make money, it just makes sense. Exactly. You make sense out of your life, right? I go to work. I come home with a nice paycheck. Even a nicer one, my life somehow makes sense. That's on a very simple level. But on any level, deep, more external, more spiritual, more physical, we try to make sense, first of ourselves, the people around us. And we love that. The more you can make sense of it, the more you're in control of it. It's predictable. It has a category. It goes in somewhere. There's filing cabinets. Your life could be put into places. It makes sense. We love that which we understand. What people understand, they love, they respect, they cherish, because it works. It works for them. We hate things that we don't understand. Why? They shock us. They frustrate us. They force us to they rattle our comfort zones. Who wants to rattle their comfort zone? You want to make sense. Suddenly it doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in with your parents. What do?
You have to expand.
But that takes a lot of humility. The easier thing to do is
Shut down.
as a meshugana. He's a meshugana. Another way we do it is apikursus. This is apikursus.
How do you do it for yourself?
How do you do it to yourself? You crush it, you deny it, you repress it, you delegitimize it, you curse yourself for it.
Is it okay to say that Yaakov hated himself? Not like he hated it this far that he didn't.
Okay.
But
Well, Leah and Rachel here are symbolic, obviously.
So
These ideas manifested in the people, but the ideas are represent every person. There's Leah, and obviously that's his paradigm here.
So how do you deal with something?
Okay, so 1 second. So Leah represents the parts of the self that I cannot make sense of. I don't have my finger on it. I can't wrap my brain around it. It has my brain wrapped in it. I don't have my brain wrapped around it. It has me wrapped in it. It's the part of me that doesn't make sense. Now, let's apply this to machshava. When you talk about machshava, there's conscious thoughts that are already like dibur. Right? When you're reading a speech, you're also thinking. When you're reading a paper, words, you're also thinking. That's already machshava of the world of dibur. That's articulated machshava. And then here we're talking about machshava that's even higher than midas. What would be machshava that's higher than midas? Seichel that's higher than midas. Here we're talking about emotions is my articulated self. Who am I? This is who am I. It's my articulated self. Seichel and machshava here is talking about a higher self that gives birth to my midas, but it's the mother. And the mother means it's the origin, it's the source. It's not only, seichel means, okay, this table is brown and I like the color brown, I'll buy it for my house. Seichel means all levels of awareness that give birth to all of your emotions. How much do you know of that? All levels of your awareness could be conscious, could be subconscious, could be a little conscious, could be super conscious, could be subconscious, and could be subconscious and more. I don't know if I'm making up terms or not, but the concept you agree. It's like how many layers, how many basements do you have, you know? You have one group basement, and you have a cave, and in the cave you have another cave, right?
We're discussing the lack of the emotional aspect versus the intellectual. And a person can intellectually say, I don't understand this. Okay, it's out of my realm of intellectual base. But emotionally, I can't expand into that world because it's too threatening to me. It seems like there's a division.
Well, emotions are very much how I relate to the world. Emotions are how I relate to the world. They're always fueled by an awareness.
So once
But a person is not intimidated by an intellectual lack.
Yeah.
A person doesn't have to be intimidated by intellectual lack. I don't understand that. It's above my pay grade. But emotionally, I don't understand how you're responding to me, and like it makes me discomfort.
Exactly.
I'm backing off.
Exactly. Exactly.
So once you're aware of it, it's almost like dibur. It's not anymore.
It's already closer to the world of Dibur. It's closer to the world of Dibur. It's Alma de Isgalia. So Alma de Iskasha and Alma de Isgalia exist on many different levels, right? What's revealed and what's concealed. But the concept is always the same concept. That which lends itself to be articulated. In other words, you can define it. Why? Because it's restricted. It's filtered. It's boxed in. So I can articulate it, I can define it, I can say it's this and not this. And that which is far more nebulous, far more elusive, far more abstract, far more intangible, far more mufshat, and therefore it remains concealed. Not because it's less intense, because it's far more intense. And therefore it has to remain concealed, because it shuns to be articulated in a particular way. It defies being restricted, it defies being limited, it can't be. Which is why our brain filters so much of our internal core and doesn't allow us to experience it, not because it's not there, because it's so there and it's so powerful and it's so deep and it's so infinite it can become overwhelming. So it remains concealed, and it has to remain concealed. And when a person is exposed to that concealment, it's exhausting. It's extremely exhausting. That is the Bechina of Leah. It never stopped. Like you said yesterday, some people say, I just can't stop thinking. So sometimes it translates, unfortunately, into a very serious, mental challenge. But again, we're talking here about the root of the idea, even in spiritual terms. And that is the concept that a person who is deeply, deeply in touch with a source, with a flow, that never ceases, and it's extremely, extremely intense. It does not relax. Even in the sleep, you can't relax from it. You're dreaming about it too. That causes internal exhaustion because you're privy to so much more. You see more, you perceive more, you're sensitive to more, you're receiving much more, and it's like it's Niagara Falls. There's the flow of the sink, there's a nice waterfall in the lake, and then there's Niagara Falls. It's a whole different level.
But it's not static. What I mean is, it's true that when you don't sense something and you can't wrap your head around it, it's very frustrating, so it's very weakening, wasting, whatever. But one of the great joys, conversely, is when you take something that you can't wrap your head around and then you grow into it. I mean, in marriage, when a spouses begin to get each other, the omniskasi part, that's a great joy. I'm not a therapist, but like Moshe, but it seems to me when someone goes through therapy and a part of themselves they never push understood, the therapist makes them understand. There's no greater nachas ruach than that.
Just epiphany, guys, an epiphany.
Right,
Boom,
I'm saying.
destruction.
That's the process. Originally, I hate it. If I stick with it, I'll learn to love it.
Why? Because I will understand it?
Yeah.
Right. You come to respect it.
Iskasya will become Isgalia to you.
Expand your
It can
base.
be something that you're aware of, but you still don't grasp.
Of course. There's a trickle, there's a light, there's a glimmer. There's a glimmer. Now, so in every person, you have Leah and you have Rachel. In simple words, Rachel is the part of yourself that you can make sense of, and you do make sense of. Leah is the part of yourself that you can't make sense of. It's very hidden. It doesn't allow itself to be articulated because it's beyond it. And it's really a very deep place in the person, which comes from a much deeper space in him. And because it comes from such a deeper space in him, therefore, it has those qualities of iskasya, it has those qualities of machshava. It has to do with the deepest layers of the human psyche and the human existence that are very, very profound, and I can't understand it. It's too heavy. It's too much. That's my Leah. I usually don't know Leah. I don't have a relationship with Leah. And if I start having a relationship with Leah, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not go there. Please, let's not go there.
Rocks the boat.
Rachel, I love spending time with Rachel. I'm good. I have her. I have Rachel. She has me. Whatever. It works. It's a hand in the glove. Leah doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. So what happens? There's a lot of resistance. That's the word. Kisnua Leah means people resist Leah. We don't like things that we cannot fit into our paradigms, into our comfort zones. They make us annoyed. And what do I do then? What do I do? The easiest thing to do is to say, I hate you. We're not the same type. Why? Maybe we are really the same type. Maybe you're triggering in me things that I don't want to deal with. And therefore, if I cut you out of my life, I'll have much more peace. What does it mean, cut you out? It can mean physically. It can mean emotionally, I'll cut you out. It mean I'm threatened by you. It can mean I just can't be with you in the same dalaramas. Or it just means I have to play a game with you. But it's all different forms of rejection. And it applies even in very simple ways. Sometimes, I've told you many times, there's different types of shiurim. Sometimes you'll hear a shiur. Most Jews, when they hear a shiur, they have one objective, to make it fit into what they know already. That's the objective of most shiurim. They want to make it fit in, right? That's why most responses that I will get over the years after shiur is, it reminds me of a vart I heard last week. Why does it have to remind you of a vart I heard last week? Because that's what we do. I have a filing cabinet of who God is, what Judaism is, what religion is, what it's supposed to look like. You added a new vart, okay, it goes into this filing cabinet. Some Seifer, fine. Briskira, fine. Chazonish, fine. Noida Behuda, fine. A story, a vart, a joke, but it fits into the back. Mida connected Mida is one big paradigm in Judah. Okay, there's another Mida connected Mida. And organized people, they build their portfolios of religion that way. What if somebody actually says something completely new? So either you fall asleep, which is resistance, right? Or you start texting.
Or tap.
Or you put them in Chaim. Or you put them in Chaim. You're threatened. So either you say, I'm a shugana, so then you don't have to deal with it. Meshugoyim, I don't have to deal with. Because they're crazy. Crazy people are crazy people. Or I say he's not crazy, he's dangerous. He's going to destroy all of our kids. The same thing, it's resistance. I cannot deal with it because it was too new, so what do I do with it? Or maybe I could do something else, but that takes a lot of humility, right? A lot of humility to do something else. So the natural process is that Leah we hate.
What is something else? Make sense out of it, but live it out. Expand or kill?
What's the other way? I didn't want to say the other way because you have to figure it out. But there's something else.
Not making sense.
To sit with your pain, to understand why you're resisting it. What is it that you're resisting? Because that's where the truth is.
Not making sense.
Don't make sense. You don't have to manipulate it. You don't have to manipulate. You have to sit with it. Let it make sense of you. You don't have to make sense of it. That's the big difference. Let it make sense of you. You don't have to make sense of it. You don't have to come with a pen and paper and classify it. Leah defies classification. It's very exhausting to be in that mode. That's why we don't do it. We don't like it. Now go to the real Leah and Rachel, okay? In terms of a spouse. In terms of a spouse, it's quite obvious, okay? There is the Rachel and there's the Leah. There's the part of your wife or your husband. I know there's some Nashon Tzadkanias listening. There's the part of your wife or the part of your husband that you make sense of, right? Or let me put it that way. You try to make sense of it. You try. This is who she is. This is this. This is that, right? And in fact, hopefully there was an attraction, which is the reason, right? The Gemara says, Asur l'adam l'kadosh l'sishta atchi yirena. Shnema v'aftal l'recha kamaycha. V'aftal l'recha kamaycha doesn't only go on strangers, it also goes on your wife. There's a mitzvah v'aftal l'recha kamaycha, at least like every Jew. And the Gemara says, mitzvah l'ayavas ishtoi k'gufoi, m'chabda yosim k'gufoi, to love her as much as you love yourself, to respect her more than you respect yourself. So there's the element of my spouse that you call Rachel. What's Rachel? Yefas Tayar v'yefas Mara. Rachel is beautiful. Who calls her beautiful? Me. I call her beautiful. Why? Because she's beautiful to me. Gemara says in Saita Shalish Chinasein Chein Isha al Baila. This works. This is why you wanted this wife. This is why you wanted this husband. You love the humor, you love the spunk, you love the wisdom, you love the depth, you love the honesty, you love the candidness, you love the balabatishkeit, you love the sharpness, you love the emotional sensitivity, whatever. I don't know what all you guys were thinking about, but whatever it was, hopefully all of the above. All of the above. I hope your wife is listening. Huh? That's what you want. That's your fast Toya. Rashi says Toya Mara. Again, Toya is physique, symmetry, and Mara is countenance. It's two separate things. So another Maimon Vayeitzei. What's Toya? What's Mara? Toya is balance. Symmetry is balance. You know, symmetry, an artist. And then this Mara is not balance. Mara is the depth of wisdom that shines through the face. That is Toya and Mara. But Rachel is beautiful. Why is it beautiful? You could say, this is gorgeous. This is a piece of art. Why do I call it a piece of art? Because I appreciate it.
You relate to it.
I relate to it. It's relatable. It fits into my paradigms. What a good spouse is. What a meaningful relationship is. What a fulfilling marriage is. What a romantic, loving, joyous life together is. It doesn't mean there's no struggles. There's no challenges. People are people. Their moods change. Dispositions change. People go through struggles. But Rachel is something I could, so to speak, put in my box. That's Rachel.
Finite.
Finite, yes. Dibur, finite, always finite. That's the word. Mem psucha. Leah is the part of your spouse that makes you exhausted. Why? Of course it's the same person. That's the point. It's always the same person. It's not even your spouse. It's yourself. It's also your spouse. It's also your children. It's your friend. It's everything. Everything in life is Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel. It's also Leah and Rachel. It's also two people. But like I told you, every character in Torah is a character in the self. It's the part of your spouse that makes you exhausted. And when somebody asks you, what do you think of this aspect of your wife? You say, I hate it. Of course you hate it. It drives you crazy. Drives you mad. Frustrates you. It annoys you. Shakes you up. It's like, I can't deal with this. And some people have this, and sometimes it's overwhelming. I hate this. Or I say, what is it? What is it? I can't make sense. I can't integrate it into me. It brings up stuff. And again, this is on many different levels. This is not one word. This is many, many different levels. But why is it? I'm observing something that I never made peace with in myself. And because I never made peace within myself, I cannot make peace with that in you. So therefore, Leah is exhausted, and Leah causes me to get exhausted for the same reason. Because it's challenging me to connect to something. I'm looking at something that does not fit into my comfort zone. And it's rattling me, it's shaking me up. So what do? We say, get out of my life. Again, we cut off. We cut ourselves off. How? Some people physically get cut, they separate. Some people emotionally, it may not be physically, emotionally. I create a new life for myself without you. Because when I look at you, I get headaches. I can't deal with it. So I go to places that don't give me headaches. I'm not going to sit with it. It's too difficult. Or I turn you into a meshugana. It's always the easiest thing, right? There's a t-shirt I'm very easy to get along with once you learn to worship me. That works. If I turn you into a meshugana, it's always wonderful. She's crazy. He's crazy. They're insane. I'm the normal one. You want a normal person to be with a crazy person. It doesn't work. So therefore, Rachel I love. Leah, instinctively, we have deep resistance to. Now comes probably the line that I still look at it, and it's astounding if you understand a little bit of the history of philosophy and psychology and psychoanalysis and therapy and studies of self-awareness and imagotherapy and marriage therapy and this, that this was actually said before the entire discipline was even considered in a primordial soup. Okay? But now look at the next line in this mimer. And that's why Yaakov had to marry Leah, but only unconsciously. It could not happen in a way that he would agree with it. It had to be because Leah represents something that is beyond his das. So if you would consult Yaakov, he would say, never. It's beyond my das. This is not me. I'm sorry. This is not my shidduch. So we marry Leah, but we cannot be asked. Because if we're asked, we'll right away reject it. We don't like Leah. It's not me. I need somebody who's going to be my soulmate, not your soulmate and not God's soulmate. I need my soulmate. For this, I have to know me. But what about the part of me that I don't know? I can't marry that person. But there is a part of you that you don't know. So what the Alter Rebbe is saying is, you don't marry one person. You marry two people. You always marry two people. Your conscious self marries your conscious wife or husband. Your super conscious self also marries, and it marries your super conscious spouse. So Yaakov has to get married to Leah, but it's shaloi midaita. If you would come to Yaakov and say, "Look, I was a shidduch, Leah, why don't you meet?" Yaakov was like, another shidduch. Find you another shidduch. Of course, super conscious always happens. Super conscious. So the marriage in Yaakov and Leah is not just a story in Ulelavan. He fooled them and deceived them. It's a conceptual idea. We enter into a marriage with Leah, but always beyond our das, because Leah represents that which is beyond my das. So my das can't feel comfortable. My das won't initiate the relationship. I'm not going into this relationship. What does it do with me? It defies me. It challenges me. It frustrates me. It rattles me. It's annoying for me. It always happens shaloi midas. So on a level of yourself where you can't make sense of yourself, you're in a relationship with the aspect of your spouse that you also can't make sense of because it's beyond the conscious self. In terms of kedusha of Eretz Yisroel, it's the divine energy that doesn't lend itself to be articulated, and now you are in the relationship. But here is the key. Yaakov wants to marry Rachel. On the way to marry Rachel, you always marry Leah first, because you cannot have a relationship with Rachel if you don't first have a relationship with your Leah. Because if you don't have a relationship first with your Leah, your relationship with Rachel is based on cutting off who you really are. So your relationship with Rachel is really superficial. So the only way you can have a real relationship with Rachel is if you make peace with Leah in yourself and in your spouse.
You do the Leah tikkun.
So that's why you have tikkun Leah, tikkun Rachel every night. And tikkun Chatzos, there's tikkun Leah, tikkun Rachel. 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, yeah?
So this is by definition every marriage. It's not unique to Leah and Rachel.
Yes. So in other words, what we learn from this Maimer, that the marriage of Yaakov to Leah and Rachel is a story about almost every marriage. It's every marriage. To put it in very simple terms, whenever anybody is getting married, they always think they're marrying Rachel. Hopefully, I should say. I know not always, unfortunately. If somebody's forcing you into a marriage, it's a disaster, and you shouldn't allow that to happen to you or to your children. I don't care which community you live in. There's no right to force people into marriage. It's sheer cruelty. I'm not talking about helping people work through their fears and challenges. I'm talking about a person knows that I don't want this, and to force them, I don't understand the logic of it. And to blame it on Judaism is a separate disaster. Okay, that's just the truth I had to say. But unfiltered. Huh?
What you're saying is that even if it's not prearranged marriage, it's also the same thing.
Of course. That's exactly my point. If it's a prearranged marriage, then God runs the show. Then I don't have what to say. But I'm talking about, so to speak, a conventional marriage, which is at least not completely prearranged. There's some level of familiarity, or maybe even a deep level of familiarity. You always think you're marrying Rachel. That's why you're marrying her. Hopefully, you fast married. This is great. It's going to be beautiful. You don't get married to get divorced. It's not Hollywood. Masechta Gittin is not supposed to come before Masechta Kedushin, only when you're learning Gemara. Right? You don't get married to get divorced 6 hours later. Before the end of the wedding, they already have a nuptial, 28 million for her, 28 million for him. So I'm getting married to Rachel because she's Yifas Tov, Yifas Mara. So we're always going to marry Rachel. And when you are planning to get married, you're planning to marry Rachel. But then there comes the next scene of the pasuk. Vayarba boiker v'hinehi Leah. The sun shines, and you take a look, and you're like, whoa. I ended up with Leah. But that I couldn't have initiated. I couldn't have processed. I couldn't have created it. I would never create it because the I would never be in that relationship. It was created for me, by me, but not by my conscious me. There's another element of Yaakov that took him to Leah, and Leah took him to Yaakov. Now, there's another mime of the Baal HaTanya also in Torah where he describes why Lavan is the one who did this. It's not for now, but why Lavan? What Lavan represents. Lavan comes from the word white. White is the color that includes all colors, endless possibilities. Lavan is the ultimate crook, which spiritually means Lavan represents something that's not fixed in a particular image. A crook represents somebody, I said this today, but tomorrow I change my mind. So in this world, it's a horrible trait. Everything has a shirish in godliness. It means the level of kedusha that's not fixed. It's not stuck. And therefore, hechlif es maskurti aseres moinim. There's no one color. It's not green or blue or yellow. White is the source. Ultimately, it includes, it contains all colors. So therefore, Lavan makes the switch. Because Lavan challenges the person not to get stuck in anything. Okay, that's again al piruchnius in a different maimer, and also in Torah Vayeitzei. So what happens here is, when I get married, I'm always planning to marry Rachel, and that's how it should be. And we make up in 7 years, and it's great, or 7 months, or 7 weeks, whatever it is. When you get married, maybe the next morning, maybe the next year, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 17 years, whatever it is, v'hinehi Leah. And what happens when you see Leah? It's like, oh, whoa. I hate Leah. I can't deal with Leah. Get it out of my life. You're not for me. Who ever heard of this? I never knew this. I never saw this. But the truth is, there's another path. And the path is that you have to open yourself up to the part of you that you never made sense of. And therefore open yourself up to the part of her that you never made sense of. And then you can actually marry Rachel. There's a path to Rachel always leads through Leah. Because if not, my relationship with Rachel is based on cutting off who I am. So I can't even love Rachel with my full being. Because my full being is not in the relationship. Because my full being remains detached from the relationship. because a lot of my relationship with Rachel is still based on my insecurity. So therefore, it's through Leah, which is exhausting, that I can ultimately reach Rachel. And as we all know in the end of the story, ultimately, in the physical story, Rachel passes on, and Yaakov remains married to one person, to Leah. And Yaakov is buried not with Rachel, but with Leah, which is interesting, because Rachel was his dream. But ultimately, Rachel is part of Leah. She's really part of Leah. Alma Disgalia comes from Alma Disgasia. It's one world. So the two sisters really merge, so to speak, on some level, into one. And Leah is the mother of the 6 Shvatim. Now, according to this, I think we have a whole new depth in the Minhag Yisroel of the Badekanish. I'm going to bring up some very sweet memories. You remember your Badekanish? The Badekan, the Chassan veils the bride. Why does the Chassan veil the bride? What's the reason? The time I'm in Hagen, there's different reasons for it. One is the Shechina's on her face, but it's an interesting thing that she's veiled during the chuppah. And in many communities, when he does the Kiddushin, he doesn't see her, she doesn't see him. So you're putting your ring on her finger. By many communities where she remains veiled throughout. He says, Harayat Mekudeshes Li, arguably the most important moment of the marriage. They're getting married. It's like everything is going to be based on this moment. Halachically too, this is the Chalois Kiddushin, Eishesish, you need a get. All the halachas, it's a serious moment, it's the moment. And at that moment, he doesn't see her, she doesn't see him. For all he knows, it could be Hillary. Okay, it's just a joke. But for all he knows, it could be, I don't know, the Shvinger. He doesn't see her. The rational wisdom would say, you're getting married, take off the badekin. Exactly. You don't cover up the merchandise. She goes around 7 times examining the merchandise, and he doesn't see anything. What's pshat? So it says in Svarim, because Leah was covered. That's why Yaakov didn't see. Why didn't Yaakov see who he's marrying? There's a whole Mishnah. Why didn't he look? She was veiled. Lavan was very frum, and it was a real thick veil, it was 10 tvachim probably, or maybe 10 amas, Shir Chazoinish. So you couldn't even get a glimpse of a glimpse of a glimpse. And Yaakov was deceived. Now we have, so my question is, why do we want to perpetuate what Lavan did? Lavan did it. He wanted to fool Yaakov. We don't want to fool anybody. The emes is you have to do the Badekanish. Because basically what the Badekanish, you're telling your Kala is that I know that I'm marrying 2 people. I am marrying the part of you that I see, but I'm also marrying the part of you that I don't see. And I know that when I'm entering into the relationship, I'm entering into a relationship with somebody that part of them I don't see. Not because I don't want to see it, but because I can't see it at this moment. Not because I'm dumb and naive, but because that's life. There is a journey into deeper and deeper layers of self. And if you're not ready to marry Leah, you're not ready to marry Rachel. You're not ready to marry. If you're not ready to marry Leah, then you're not really ready for a relationship, because part of you will remain outside of the relationship and part of the other person will remain outside of the relationship. Because the moment you will discover your Leah or her Leah, it's like, whoa, I hate you. So therefore, the Badekanish is essential to that process. So therefore, Yaakov's story is really our story. So we marry Leah. We always marry Leah. But it happens on a level Shaloi Midas. And the rest of your life, you work that out. You unravel that mystery, where each day Alma Diskasya becomes more Alma Disgalia, and then there's another layer of Alma Diskasya. Initially, Leah causes exhaustion. That's Leah. Initially, Leah causes exhaustion. Rachel, we said, it's brought in Kabbalah. The Rameh Mifanu writes, Rameh Mifanu, Rabbi Menachem Azariah Fanu, who was one of the big Mekabolim in Italy. He says Rachel is the Gematria Vayihi 238. Exact opposite. Rachel is Dibur, light, revelation. Rachel walks into the room and everybody says, Vayihi the light has come. Rachel is about light. Light is about seeing. I could see. I see what I get, just like when you speak. I speak, I hear you. I don't guess your thoughts. I don't know your inner thoughts. Rachel is the part of self that's you can shine a light on it. In other words, it could be seen, it could be articulated, it could be defined. That's Rachel. Rachel is the you, Rachel is the sheep. Now, if that's the case, so it's a whole different mahalach Rachel and Leah. They were two different types of people too. You can't compare who Rachel was to Leah was. They were two completely different personalities. Two very different types of people. Eine Leah, Rakos. The eyes of Leah were very tender. They were very soft. You looked into Leah's eyes, you saw there's a lot there. You could dismiss it if you were superficial. But his argument here is that Leah was hated not because she was a bad lady or because she was just, never made it. Leah was hated because she was too deep for most people. And when we encounter very deep people, we just don't like them. Why? It challenges mediocrity. Mediocre people don't like big, deep people. They challenges us, and therefore we do different things to them. The first thing we do is we cut them out of our life emotionally. And that was the story of Leah. There's an expression, somebody once said, we don't love other people, we love our version of them. That's the key. We don't love other people, we love our version of them. I have my version of you, and it fits with me, and that's what I love. Rachel, Tifasta, Tifasmara. The question is, do I love you, or do I love my version of you? Do I love my child, or do I love my version of my child? It looks like you love your child, but maybe you only love your version of your child. And as long as he suits the version, perfect. He goes on that path, whatever that is, I love. The moment you're not my version, it's like, whoa, I can't make sense of it. There's no nachas here. What is the community? It's not predictable anymore. Once it's not predictable, it's very, very difficult to sit with it.
Why does Leah have to come first?
What's the secret? Humility?
Humility helps. Sense of humor helps. Humor helps. Some other things help too.
Alcohol helps.
It helps. I don't know if it's a solution.
One would speculate that our Avodas Hashem works by the same dialectical movement of converting Olam Discussion into Olam Skaldia. And just like Rachel and Leah, you have to have to start with Veil. Maybe we have to start with Kafel and Harki Gigis. We never would have agreed, or Yaakov never would have agreed.
Beautiful.
And then as you move forward, you convert.
Alma Discussion, Alma Disgalia. You're saying Kaf Aleim Harki Gigis would be like Leah. There's a part of the relationship that I can't ask you. The next year here will be Monday. Okay? Monday morning. Not tomorrow and not Shabbos. My brother is here for Shabbos, yes.
Why does Leah come first?
Why does Leah come first? Leah by definition comes first because that's the real relationship.
That's where the work is.
Huh? Leah is your real self, your deeper self. It comes first, number one. Number two, it's a result of this. To be connected to Rachel, I really have to be connected to Leah, because if not, I'm not connected to Rachel with my full self. And I'm not connecting to her with her full self. I'm just connecting with her in order to make myself comfortable. I'm not really connecting to her with my full, undiluted self. I'm just connecting with her because that makes sense. It works. To be able to connect with Rachel in a real way, I need to connect with Leah in a deep way. And ultimately, Leah will have to be filtered through Rachel. That's what the Beis HaMikdash looked like. Leah works with Rachel. That's the unity of the two sisters. The Shechina filters Leah so I can articulate Leah. And then there's a time of Churban where you have to deal with Leah itself. In other words, we would call that somebody who has a breakdown. The Churban is a break emotionally. Beis HaMikdash is a cohesive self. The Churban is the breakdown of the personality. Your Beis HaMikdash gets destroyed, right? Your Shechina goes into Galus. And all you have is this chaos in your life. And now you have no choice to go to Rachel, because Rachel broke down. Now you have to go to Leah. And that's the Arizal. The Arizal tapped in to the infinite chaos of the universe that was only available in Galus. But when he tapped into that, he can heal the world because he went back to the original Leah. You get it? So the Arizal was forced, Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, they were forced to tap into a chaos because integration was not available anymore. So they had to go and make real peace with Leah. They had to be able to open up the world to the energy of Leah and heal it. That was probably their greatest depth, their greatest greatness, because you run away from these stuff. It's like nuclear energy. There's a lot in this little mimer. There's a lot here. It's not so short as it seems.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.